I don't want a church, I need people to call a family.
The physics study.
Even know what it's about. You wanna judge me? Your mind
To a unicorn, follow the Dalai Lama.
Sleep. There isn't any God, and when you die, you're just dead. And heaven's just a fairy tale to put you to bed. Sometimes I think about the chance that I'm wrong.
even know what
And
it's
then I
about.
close my eyes and just remember this song. I said there isn't any God, and when you die, you're just dead. And
In measured neutrinos, hundreds of billions are passing through people every single second. That's something we know, but no instrument.
Sometimes I think about the chance that I'm wrong.
Even know what
And
it's
then I
about.
close my eyes.
Turn off. Okay, we have a quorum. And I worry about playing music in our videos, lest it gets banned on YouTube because of copyright infringement. Maybe we can be playing before we go live on YouTube. Nonetheless, we are here. We are already live on YouTube. Welcome everybody to our weekly Zoom meetings. We are privileged to have Chillwave as our moderator, and we are going to talk about manipulation and dark triad traits. I look forward to having the discussion. At least we are within time. Today, we haven't gotten to 10 past the hour yet. So, welcome, Chillwave. Take it away.
All right. Thank you for the warm introduction, Dorcas, and welcome everyone to tonight's discussion. So I would first like to start by asking, how would you define manipulation? Morioki, I see your hand is up.
Still everyone. It's like trying to take advantage of somebody using trickery, using emotions, just trying to use someone for your own advantage. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, Dorcas.
Okay, yes, I'm in agreement with Morioki. Put in other words, I would say that manipulation is the indirect deceptive tactics used to sway emotions for one's gain. So there's the element of selfishness in that one is focusing on themselves when they are manipulating others. There's no element of reciprocity, or if it's there, it's very minimal. It's for somebody's gain, for the manipulator's gain, and it involves deception, an element of dishonesty, and it is often indirect. You know, there are direct methods of causing harm, which are not what manipulation is. You know, to be manipulated, it means like when I think of it, I'm imagining the symbolic puppet pulling the strings. Okay, you cannot see the master puppeteer, but there are still some strings that are being pulled. So it is hidden. Yeah, it is hidden, it is subtle, but it is there nonetheless, and it benefits the manipulator at the expense of the manipulated. I can give examples of manipulation or even tactics, but I don't know if the moderator will ask about that. Let me wait.
All right. Thank you for your definition. Are there any others who have thoughts before I give my own definition? Monk or Rachel or Stano, any other thoughts? Yes, Rachel.
Okay. Thank you. So, according to me, I believe manipulation is trying to sway someone in a certain direction that I feel will be in my favor if I'm done with manipulating. And well, contrary slightly to what Dorcas has said, I don't believe manipulation necessarily has to be hidden. Sometimes manipulation is outright. It's clear that someone is trying to manipulate you. Because sometimes it could come with threats, it could come with certain subtle benefits even to the person who is being manipulated, especially maybe when you look at politics. Hmm, manipulation can be, but most times you find that the person who is doing the manipulation has some level of power over the person being manipulated. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Stano, Monk, do you have anything to say? Or should I just give my definition?
I think I concur with those who have said manipulation is just a lie. Try to give a lie so that you may be to help to you want somebody to believe in you or to do what you want or to follow you. So you end up giving a lie.
Okay. All right. So for my definition, how I'd phrase it is manipulation is the dishonest, unfair, or covert control and influence of people, emotions, or situations to serve one's own advantage. It involves tactics like gaslighting, guilt tripping, or charm to sway behavior, often leaving the target feeling confused or pressured. And we can have psychological slash emotional manipulation, covertly managing someone's feelings or thoughts, e.g., love bombing or playing victim, to gain power or a specific outcome. And there's also behavioral manipulation, using deception or coercion to force someone to act against their own interest. I guess for those of you who don't know, my understanding of love bombing is like someone can message you in such a way, or rather, they dis display a high amount of affection towards you, then maybe they withdraw it later on just to get you addicted to them. I believe that's the love bombing. I think a lot of us are familiar with playing the victim. We'll also get into, there's another section where we'll get into the specific tactics that they use. But playing the victim is where, maybe you try and blame them for something they've done, and then they try and turn the tables around on you, right? So maybe I can also ask, since we're on this question, I don't know how brave you guys are, but have you guys ever experienced manipulation? And if so, was it more of the psychological, emotional, or the behavioral? Like, was someone trying to manipulate your feelings or your thoughts or behavior? Or if it's not you, maybe someone that you know, right? Who's experienced this? Yes, Dorcas.
Absolutely. I have experienced manipulation, psychologically, behaviorally, financially, socially, you name it. I have experienced it. I'm thinking of some recent examples. One of them is, it happened last night. So I was heading to an event and I was running late. This photographer sees me. There are these photographers in town in the CBD who they accost you aggressively, and then they tell you that they want to take your photo. And in fact, there's a mushrooming of street photographers in the Nairobi Central Business District. I think Kenyans really lack imagination. Like, you come up with one idea and everybody is doing it. Anyway, so this guy stops me. I'm like, Aki, I'm in a hurry. I don't have time. He's like, please, please, madam, you look so good. I am going to take your photos for free because it's my birthday. I'm going to take your photo, please. It's for free. It's my birthday. I'm just doing it as a goodwill gesture. I'm like, okay, me, I'm late. He's like, but you look so good. Let me just take one good one. So I'm like, okay, what's the harm? He starts taking the photo and then he's like, try this pose, try this pose. So I do like 3 of them and even asks me to turn around. Sijui nini. I'm like, I cannot turn around and my bag is over there. This is Nairobi, no way. Because I had to put my bag down to look good, to look poised. So after we are done, I'm like, oh, so you said it's your birthday, you're doing it for free. Can I receive them? The pictures, can you send them to my WhatsApp? He's like, well, I can send you one for free, but then the other 2, I'll have to charge you for it, for them. So I was like, how much? Each is 100, so that's 200. I'm like, 200? My plan was to spend 200 where I was going. Yeah. He's like, yeah, no, I can't send you even that free one if you're not going to buy these others. So he withheld them. And I was thinking, gosh, the photos look so good. I told him, okay, I just have 100. So I gave him 100. And he sent me the photos, the 3 photos. So at the end of the day, I was manipulated by hidden fees. This guy claimed that he was going to do it for free. Then he sprung up these charges out of nowhere. So yeah, there's that. I've experienced it in relationships. I've been gaslit. I've been love bombed. Even at my workplace, children can also be manipulative. I told you guys I now work at a daycare center. So there's this kid I found misbehaving. So I'm like, let me change his name to Timothy. Timothy, stop doing that. You know what Timothy did? He hit his head on the wall and then started crying. So he turned the situation around to make himself the victim, yet he was doing something bad to begin with. So yeah, it's everywhere, and it can be done by manipulation, can be done by children, by people of all ages, of all genders, etc. Lastly, there's that's not me per se, but there's this book called The Power of the P, censored. It's a woman's private part. The power of the woman's private part, P. It starts with a P. And I feel like it is very manipulative. Like, I couldn't even get past the first chapter. I was like, this is not me. I'm sorry. I think I'm a better human being than this. I don't want to use the power of my private part that way. Anyway, I know I've talked too much. Let me stop there. Thank you.
Yes, Morioki.
Yeah, thanks, Julie. Yeah, these guys who go in public vehicles with medical bills or medical reports that they have this issue in their body and they need money, but somehow it never ends. Like, there's somebody I know, even after 1 year, she has the same document from a doctor saying she wants this money, she has this condition. So you feel like when I saw her the first time, I gave her money twice. Then I saw her again, she's still there with the same issue. So I stopped giving her money. But if you're new, you'll give her because you're seeing she has a medical report from a doctor showing that she needs money or she has this condition. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Uh, Moroki, you've actually reminded me of a scam I recently learned about, right? So I don't know if you guys have experienced this, probably you have, but let's say you're just walking and then someone walks up next to you and they're like, oh, CG, I had a job and I was supposed to go, like, let's say you're in Westlands and they say, oh, I was supposed to go to Embakasi, so can you just assist me with fare? So that's happened to me like maybe 3 times. All of the times I said no, but I didn't think it was a scam. I thought they genuinely needed fare. I just genuinely didn't have cash at the time. But Kumbe, I learned that it's actually a scam. Like these guys are going nowhere. They just walk around like telling guys they need to go somewhere and they ask for fare. So yeah, it's crazy. And to what Dorcas was saying, I mean, she opened a whole can of worms because I think there's so many books like that, Power of the Pea, Power of the Cat, that I think certain people enjoy reading. And yeah, there's another book called Hoe Tactics. There's another book called, I think, Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office. There's another book called, there are many. I'll even find that thread one day and we can talk about it another time because I guess there's what they call the manosphere and there's, I guess, the woman's sphere. There's no official woman's sphere, but those are books I would put in the woman's sphere. Rachel.
Okay. There's one that I think many people could relate with. Uh, black tax. Black tax from time to time can come with some level of manipulation. So I believe that could also fall in that bracket. Yeah. There's also, okay, personal experience, I would say maybe in campus. In campus, I had a roommate. I had a roommate. So when the semester comes to an end, you're supposed to look for where you live next semester. And so you book the room beforehand. So when that semester was coming to an end, we tried looking for places we could move to, but she constantly had no money. Yeah, so, but we need to put a deposit, and I couldn't put a deposit alone. So when I saw that the semester is like almost coming to an end, I decided, okay, let me just look for a place by myself. So I went ahead and looked for a place. Then the room that I got could only accommodate one person because it was a small space. So when she found out about it, she was so mad. She was so mad. So I remember her telling me, I either step down from the room, like I give it up to her, to make up for how mad I have made her, or we look for, we never become friends again. So I found that I found that quite manipulative because what do you mean you're the only one who can occupy this room yet I've booked it first? So that is how we stopped being friends until we finished campus. She held the grudge until we finished school. But anyway, that was part of an example.
All right. Thank you. Now, the next question I would ask is, what would you say is the difference between manipulation and influence? Yes, Dorcas.
Okay. Um, this lies in the definitions of the words. Influence. Influence is, according to Google, is a transparent ethical process of guiding someone toward a mutually beneficial decision respecting their autonomy. Yeah. So influence has the element of mutual benefit ingrained in it, whereas manipulation is one way. So that would be the overarching difference, that influence focuses on two-way benefits, while manipulation is selfish. It benefits the manipulator. Another difference would be that manipulation uses fear and guilt a lot, whereas with influence, it is about persuading. It is about persuading somebody and even empowering them to take up that solution that you're providing. That would be a second difference that I would highlight. And a third one would be using, okay, no, I've already said that. I've said convincing versus using those negative psychological tactics. So, okay, let me leave it there for now. Thank you.
Monk, had you raised your hand?
Yes, I did raise, but it's almost similar to what Dorcas has said. Manipulation, influence. I feel like it's general. It's a general term, very wide one. But now manipulation, of course, manipulation can also lead to. There's a way you can manipulate to influence. If I'm not repeating myself or being circular. So influence is general, and manipulation is more specific. It's more direct, and it's more direct, if it makes sense.
Okay, when you say
As in influence can be negative or positive, but manipulation again, influence just being a general term, as in you can find manipulation can fall under influence.
okay.
Yes.
So for you, you believe that one is a subset of the other.
Some I'll say yes.
Okay. Murioki?
I want to ask Dorcas, is Dorcas saying manipulation is negative and influence positive? I want to confirm that. Is that what Dorcas, is that what you're saying? Thanks.
Yes, more often than not. But I actually agree with Monk when he says that manipulation is a subset of influence. Even when we were defining manipulation, there's one person who said it is when you influence others for your own gain. Okay, that's now the part where manipulation diverges from general influence. So influence can be both positive or negative, but manipulation specifically is negative. That's my understanding.
Okay, sir, thanks.
All right. So the definition I went with myself was the core difference between influence and manipulation is intent and transparency. Influence is a transparent, ethical process aimed at win-win scenarios that benefit all parties, while manipulation is a deceptive, self-serving tactic that forces compliance, often harming the target to benefit the manipulator. So I wouldn't necessarily call manipulation a subset of influence. I'd maybe say that on a spectrum, maybe we can call it the spectrum of persuasion, in the sense that on one hand you can be influencing someone, but up until a certain point it starts to become manipulative, and what indicates it is just, is it no longer win-win, and does it start to become self-serving? I think those are the thoughts I have on it. Yes, Monk.
Yes, I just have a question for you.
Yes.
So is there an aspect of manipulation that is not targeted at influence or is totally outside influence?
Well, that's the thing. I think I think you're looking at influence in terms of the physical or the psychological outcomes, but I think the context of the question was more from in terms of an ethical perspective, like how is influence different from manipulation, ethically speaking, as opposed to the actual influence. So, like, how would I put it? I think someone can use both influence and manipulation, and that's why manipulation might appear to be influence, but to me, I would say there's a distinct cutoff point. So let me give you an example. Let's say I wanted to sell you a car, right? And that car is broken, right? But I don't tell you that. So I dress well, I have a smile on my face, I wear nice cologne, I approach you with confident body language and a smooth voice, and I talk clearly, and I really try to sell you on this car, right? So that aspect could be seen as influence, but where the manipulation comes in is the fact that I'm not creating a win-win situation. If that car was genuine, like it's a product that can benefit you because it actually works, then we would just label it as influence. But if that product is faulty and I'm deliberately hiding that from you, then I would say it's manipulation. But I would say we're nitpicking here because I understood your point. So I don't disagree with your point. I just think we were looking at it from slightly different angles. But to me, I agree with your point. I agree with my point. I'm just offering my perspective.
Okay.
Yeah. Morioki, your hand is still up.
Oh, sorry. Let me write. Well,
Okay. All right. Now the next question. Are there personalities that are likely to manipulate? And if any of you have heard about the dark triad, perhaps you can tell us your thoughts on it.
Rudia, please.
Are there any personalities or personality types that are likely to manipulate, i.e., manipulate people or practice manipulation? And for any of you who have heard about the dark triad, now is the time to mention it or give your thoughts on it as well. If you haven't heard of it, then today you learn. I think Monk's hand went up first. I think.
Well, people who are maybe one of them can be your maybe the boss or somebody, a CEO in an organization, or somebody who is in people who are in authority, like in politics and all that. They are most likely, I feel like they're most likely to manipulate maybe for their own selfish gains, or it may be for a broader, as manipulation again. There's a way it can be used somehow in a maybe I hope I'm not contradicting myself. It may be used in a positive way, like, or perhaps that will not be influenced, or as in a politician aiming at something, but of course by somebody. It's not always a negative aspect. When I'm being selfish, there's a way in which I may be helping people in a wider perspective. So people in authority may be into that category. We have psychopaths, just to mention one of the triads. We can have the narcissists and the third one.
Okay. Yeah, so authority figures, psychopaths, and narcissists are the people who you'd say, or the personalities you'd say are manipulative. Okay. Rachel, you raised your hand but lowered it.
Yeah, I had the same contribution that has been aired, so I support.
All right. And Dorcas?
The dark triad: narcissists, Machiavellians, and psychopaths. Those are the personality traits that are highly likely to manipulate. Let me start with narcissists. The word narcissist comes from, I think it's a Greek mythology of Narcissus, who was, is it Narcissus? Narcissus? Something, something related to that. But this was God that saw their reflection in the river, and they were so enthralled by it that they fell in love with their own image. So, implicit in the understanding of narcissism is somebody who has an excessive admiration of themselves. They have this self aggrandizement. They feel so self important and arrogant. They're very entitled creatures. On top of that, they tend to be preoccupied with success or power, and they, of course, will inflate their accomplishments to that end. They need to be admired. They want to be the center of attention, and they possess little to no empathy. A number of them also, actually, all narcissists exploit other people for their own gain. But the primary focus for the narcissist is their self-importance. They really, really admire themselves. Ha ha ha, look at me, narcissist. Then we have, here, by the way, when I'm thinking of an example of a narcissist, I'm thinking of somebody who is probably an authoritarian leader like Kim Jong-un. This is somebody who actually wants people to worship him. They feel threatened if you are religious because it will take away from their grandness. So yeah, narcissists. Then Machiavellis, from Machiavellism, the personality type. That one actually comes from Machiavelli, which was in the book The Prince. This one, the essence of Machiavellism is focusing on power, trying to get power and self-interest. And the Machiavellian is very deceitful, cynical of human nature. They think that all humans are lazy, they are manipulable, they are greedy. They just think the worst of all humans. And so they are out to take advantage of them. They tend to be amoral. They don't have strong moral, not even strong, but they don't have moral values. They use morality actually to gain that power or to gain advantages for themselves. And they tend to be very calculated and strategic. Yeah, that is one standout feature of the Machiavellian. Then the psychopath. The psychopath is another personality trait in the dark triad, which is antisocial behavior, characterized by the lack of empathy. They don't show remorse, these people, like kabisa, they don't show remorse. They lack emotional depth. They show superficial charm. And of course, they manipulate. There is the element of emotional coldness and disinhibition or impulsivity exhibited by psychopaths. Now, if I go back a bit to the Machiavellian personality type, this I came across this when I was reading the 48 Laws of Power. While some of them are neutral, some of those 48 laws of power, there are others that are really manipulative. For example, there's a law, it is, I think, the 20-something law, which says that you should always take credit for somebody else's work. Yeah, if you want to achieve power. If you're a boss somewhere and you've employed a certain number of people, get them to do all the thinking, all the dirty work for you, and then take credit for it and tell everybody, ha ha ha, I'm the one that did it. So yeah, they tend to be that way. And I witnessed this now in Kenya recently when there's a governor, maybe let me not mention their name because I don't want to be arrested, but our police are available to the highest bidder. So let me not mention their name, but you will know if I describe the scenario. It happened, I think, last week or the week prior. This lady, she's a female politician. She had a popular comedian come to supply her. If I mentioned it, okay, no, I'm not mentioning the name, I'm just mentioning what she runs, her county. The person supplied her county certain products. Then she owed the supplier millions in fees, but she didn't pay for close to 1 year. This comedian, he was not supplying entertainment services, just so you know. He was supplying material things, like real products. And the county got them, the county was using them, but this leader refused to pay the supplier. So when he staged demonstrations, she sent the
Just
police.
hold on. I need 1 minute, but you can keep talking. I'll be back by the time you're done.
Okay, okay. So when the supplier held demonstrations at these leaders' offices, she sent the police to come and rough him up. The guy was hospitalized because of injuries from that confrontation, and her move was a classic manipulative move, a Machiavellian move. She made this supplier out to be a liar. I think that's another law, another 48th law of power, written by Robert Greene. If you can get that book, please read it, just to make you aware of these tactics, these manipulative tactics. So the leader claimed that the supplier was not a real one. He was not the actual director of that supply company.
All right,
And
I'm back.
great. I'm finishing the story. So she made the supplier look like the enemy. She gaslit him and instead became an ally to his sister. And I was thinking, wow, I can't believe she's pulling this stunt. And she's actually gotten away with it, because now the sister it's kind of like she's turned the back on the comedian. So yeah, these things are happening all around us and we need to be aware of them. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dorcas. Very huge overlap with what I was going to say. Does anyone else want to give an answer before I give my own? Okay. So in regards to the personalities, I would say the dark triad is a psychological theory describing 3 distinct but overlapping dark personality traits: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. These traits share common features of coldness, deceitfulness, lack of empathy, and a tendency to exploit others for self-interest. While not necessarily illegal, these behaviors are socially malevolent and harmful in relationships. So the definition of narcissism is defined by an inflated sense of superiority, grandiosity, arrogance, and a constant need for affirmation. So to me, when I think of a narcissist, I think of someone like Donald Trump. And ironically, I think of Mariah Carey. And for Machiavellianism, it involves a manipulative, cynical, and calculating approach to life, prioritizing self-interest above morality and using others as tools. And for psychopathy, it's characterized by high impulsivity, thrill-seeking, low empathy, and lack of remorse or guilt for harmful action. So in Machiavellianism, I would say, in my opinion, majority of the leaders of corrupt nations, we have some corrupt nations outside of Africa, inside Africa. I would say majority of them would be Machiavellians. A few psychopaths, but I think psychopathy is a bit extreme. Like, someone with like zero empathy and zero guilt, because I think these people are still able to empathize and have relationships. Like, how they have their gang or their crew, like what do you call them, the cartels, like how they can be people who are very close to each other, right? So maybe someone like, I don't know, Pablo Escobar or someone, maybe he really cares about certain people in his gang, or like the way the Italian mafia was also very family oriented, like family was important to them. So I would say they had some level of empathy, but definitely they would still use people. So one question I wanted to ask Dorcas before I give my own answer, for each of these three personalities, do you think there are any careers or positions that they would be drawn to?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I think the Machiavellian, as you have rightfully stated, they gravitate towards political positions. However, it's not all politicians that are narcissists. Please let nobody misquote us. We're not saying that all politicians are narcissists. We are saying the ones that run maybe authoritarian regimes, or those ones that run corrupt regimes. Yeah, I think those ones tend to be narcissists. I mean, Machiavellians. Okay. For narcissists, I think sales and marketing. uh, Sales and marketing is very ripe for manipulation, and people who portray this image of success that they don't really have. I think, yeah, that is ideal for them. Then, for the psychopaths, maybe we can say, nini, white collar crime, even just kawaida crime. I think it would, but that's not a career per se. But yani, that's what they would do for work. I think that disinhibition that they have, them being superficially charming, I think that allows them to reel you in, and then eventually they scam you or they steal from you, sometimes in a non-violent manner. So yeah, I think people like that, people in the entertainment industry. By the way, you mentioned Mariah Carey. I'm thinking of most influencers. Most influencers are very narcissistic. They want they want us to believe that they're really all that, when many of them are not. But actors, famous actresses and actors have shown this kind of behavior. Someone like J-Lo, Jennifer Lopez, she did a documentary and it flopped really badly because she was showing her true self, her really self-centered, manipulative self. In that documentary, even Ellen DeGeneres, she actually has been cancelled because of that. Some are saying Tyra Banks of late, because there was also a recent documentary, I think it's like months old, where Tyra Banks was shown for who she was by the people who are close to her. So I think the entertainment industry tends to attract such people. So maybe Morioki might be onto something when he talks about music. Yeah, so, but don't take that. Don't quote me again, Morioki, on that one. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So yeah, I guess I can ask you and Morioki. We'll give Morioki a chance to speak before you respond. But when you think of these three personalities, do you think Didi is any one of them? I know Morioki had something to say before I ask this question, so I'll let Morioki speak first. He can say what he wants to say, and then he can also answer this question. Then Dorcas, if you have anything to add, you can also answer the question. So Morioki.
Okay, thanks, Juliet. First, I want to ask you about Mariah Carey. What about her? First, yeah. What about Mariah Carey? And also, of course, in the music industry, it's filled with that. One of this power over people. You can control them. You run their lives. They do what you say, or they're out. Yeah. So the music industry has a lot of that manipulation because this person has power over you. One wrong move and you're out. Thanks.
Uh, so I think it's just her behavior. Like she kind of has diva behavior. And when I told people about it, they agreed with me and they said, like, even how she treats people, like, you know, how those people who like go to a restaurant and they say that, you know, the meal has to be perfect. And if it's not perfect, they like throw a tantrum and they like shout at the waiter and insult them and stuff like that. From what I've heard, that's something that Mariah Carey would do. So, yeah. Um, I think there were other examples I'd seen of her behavior, but I can't remember what exactly they are. And
Okay, thanks. Okay.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it even says Mariah Carey is frequently characterized by fans, critics, and media as having a diva persona, with some commentary suggesting narcissistic traits such as being controlling, demanding, or creating an atmosphere where staff feel small. Uh, yeah, so reports suggest her diva actions can be a way to control her environment to respond to perceived threats, such as when she has reacted to mockery during media appearances. Um, yeah, so it's kind of a known thing. Like if you know about her, like it's not a controversial opinion. like it's not like, oh, I'm just singling her out or anything. You can tell. I think you don't even need to tell, man. You can definitely tell. So yeah. Dorcas, what do you think of Diddy? Does he have any of these traits?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm leaning strongly towards psychopathy. I
Okay.
think I think Didi was a psychopath because of the abuse and the coercive control that he demonstrated. There was that Stinger Cassidy, who he was married to, and he used to abuse her constantly. In fact, they caught one incident on camera and it went viral where he was hitting her while wearing a towel. He was kicking her as she was on the floor. I thought, oh my gosh, ay ay ay. This the only a psychopath can do such a horrific thing. I also think he tends to use superficial charm. You remember those parties that he would hold? What were they called? Something parties.
Diddy parties.
Yes. So he would
Or are they
entice
called freak offs or something?
peacocks. Yeah, that's the name. Where they would have a lot of baby lotion. So Didi used to employ that superficial charm to get people to attend the free coughs and of course, there was a lot of surveillance in them, and I think if he perceives you to be a threat, he would blackmail you into staying silent. I think he even committed other crimes. I think some of his enemies or some of the potential whistleblowers were eliminated. Yeah, because he definitely had the power, and there were some unexplained disappearances around him. So, yeah, there's that aspect. There's how he's been trying to make people think of him as different from who he really is by creating that. Okay, he didn't create the documentary. It is 50 Cent who created a documentary, a Netflix documentary. But 50 Cent bought footage recorded and commissioned by P. Diddy from some third party, from maybe a potential videographer or producer who was potentially convinced by 50 Cent's higher bid. Maybe 50 Cent promised to pay him, not just promised, but paid him more money than Diddy was willing to pay him. So he gave him the footage. But that footage was originally Diddy's plan. Like, he wanted to manipulate the public into thinking he's a very likable, down-to-earth person. So he wanted to take people into his own world, but that ended up now doing the opposite, exposing him for who he really is. So yeah, that's a superficial charm, and him trying to manipulate his image in the public's eyes. I really, really think he was a psychopath, and it's a pity that the courts didn't give him the punishment he deserved. Thanks.
Okay. Before we get to Morioki, I just wanted to cover one thing. I wanted to give my answer for the careers that I think they would be drawn to. So for narcissists, I think it would be definitely like either high positions of power like CEOs, or maybe even media personalities for sure. And I think there's a documentary I was watching that said, to an extent, you'd need to have a high level of grandiosity to believe that you can make decisions on behalf of a country. Like, let's say you want to be president, like you believe that whatever you think is right and that you can decide that for everyone. That they're talking about the thin line between ambition and narcissism. So it's not that all presidents are narcissists. It's more so that positions of power attract narcissists due to that inflated sense of importance. And also, as I was saying, media personalities like, actors, actresses, dancers, singers, like to desire all of that attention. Most of us, maybe you or I, like would feel shy. Some of us might have stage fright, like maybe we can handle, like these small theaters, but to be in a stadium full of people with all eyes on you, and instead of feeling nervous, you feel like you're having the time of your life. I think that does involve some sense of narcissism. But that can be maybe a positive sense of narcissism, in the sense that at least they make good performers, since they can get over the stage fright. Machiavellians, I already mentioned. For psychopaths, I think policemen, not all, but policemen and the military would attract certain psychopaths. And the key reasons for attraction that I've found is there is a need for power, high pressure, low emotion, positions where lack of empathy is an advantage. Then roles with high income and public visibility, and functional adaptation. So they succeed in careers without necessarily breaking the law. So because psychopaths are fearless and because certain jobs provide opportunity for control and rapid decision making and financial reward, that's why I think they would be attracted to like law enforcement. Because some of us are like, oh, we wouldn't want to get violent with someone, like someone who is resisting, and we also wouldn't want to shoot someone, like taking another person's life. But if someone was a psychopath, they would be like, this is my chance to use violence. This is my chance to, this is my chance to like rough people up, and I don't require high empathy. Apparently, it also says surgeons, because it demands extreme calm under pressure and an ability to detach from the patient's emotion. So, like operating on someone's brain and someone's heart and being like, oh, this person could die if I cut the wrong thing. So, they really need that ability to keep their cool. Again, not all surgeons are psychopaths, but this is just from the research that I've done. So, yes, Dr. Let's ask Dr. Lucevelali, since you're joining us, I don't know if you have anything to say. The question was, are there personalities that are likely to manipulate? And then we talked about the dark triad. So that was the question. The other two questions were, what is the definition of manipulation, and what is the difference between manipulation and influence? So, yeah. Okay, you've given a thumbs up. I don't know if that means if you want to talk or you want me to ask Morioki to talk. I guess, Morioki, you can just talk.
Okay, fine, thanks. Yeah, I think, sorry. Yeah, I think the music industry is the worst, because I'm thinking of Michael Jackson. I used to take these young boys and then trick the parents into liking him. He used to manipulate the families into liking him. Then he separates the kid from their parents. Then he does this thing he used to do with them. So I think even R. Kelly, the same thing, because he's a so-called star, so girls like him. Then he tricks them into liking him. Then of course they go into a room and all these things happen. So I think the music industry is the worst in manipulation. So this so-called star status. Thanks.
Thank you. So I just wanted to recommend this book. It's called Manipulation by Neil Morton. That's Neilmorton. And it's a book on the dark triad. Because the problem is, some of these books on the dark triad are trying to teach you how to embrace the dark triad, but this book it's a defensive book. It's like how to identify dark triad traits in people, as well as how to defend against them. And it goes beyond the dark triad. Like, I think it lists other personality types that engage in manipulation. For example, it talks about like sadists. So a sadist is someone who just enjoys like your physical or emotional pain. So the difference between, for example, a sadist and a Machiavellian is that a Machiavellian could hurt you as a means to an end. So they make sure you suffer either physically or emotionally, but it's a means to an end. Like, let's say, just a crude example, a Machiavellian sends thugs to your house to beat you up, to get money from you, right? But for a sadist, he would send thugs to your house just to beat you up, just so you can feel pain. Like, he doesn't care about the money. It's just about sending a message or enjoying your pain. So I learned about sadists from that book. The book also talks about gaslighters. Oh my gosh, in this other group, the global philosophers, there's this one guy who literally would just constantly gaslight people. So the book gave a proper definition of gaslighting, and it also explained the mindset of gaslighters. And, they really just want to screw around with you and make you doubt yourself, and that gives them pride. So very, very informative book. Very informative. And now the next question I want to ask is, are there personalities that are more likely to be manipulated? So we've talked about the predators, but now what about the victims? What do you think makes someone more likely to be manipulated from a personality standpoint? Yes, Morioki.
Thanks. If you're somebody who's emotional, you'll be easily manipulated if you use your emotions instead of rational thinking. Somebody will manipulate you. Yeah, so somebody emotional is at risk. Thanks.
Okay, I know Monk raised your hand, but Rachel has talked a bit less, so let's let Rachel go first.
Okay. I would say, first of all, just the opposite of the ones who are manipulating. People who are in lesser positions of power are easier to manipulate, depending with context in the context that is going on at that time. Yeah. So if it is in an employment sector, you'd say the employees have lesser say, so they may be prone to be manipulated. Or if it is politics, voters could be prone to being manipulated. So people who are in lesser positions of power. I would also say people who have a low self-esteem, people who don't think about themselves or look at the future in a positive light concerning themselves. And so when someone poses their own interests, you tend to consider their interests before yours. So that's someone who has low self-esteem. I don't know much about personality because I'm thinking different personalities can be manipulated at different levels, so or fail to be manipulated. So I'm not sure the personality really counts much. I tend to feel like it's the position that this person is at when it comes to manipulation, and whether it's easier for them to be saved in that situation when they surrender to the manipulation tactics. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Yes, those power dynamics. I agree that that overlaps with what I was going to say. But let's hear the others first. So, since Monk and Dorcas have already spoken previously, let's let Dr. Lucevelelli go first.
Thank you very much. Chilu, let me ask if you can hear me. I think I'm in a
Yes, we
place
can
where
hear
there
you.
isn't. Okay. Well, to me, generally, I would say that any person can actually be manipulated depending on the circumstance. If the circumstances are right, then everyone is fair game, and it depends with who is manipulating them. We have skilled, highly skilled manipulators, but that out of the way, yes, some traits, I can call them traits. I wouldn't use the word personality in itself, and I'll explain why. Some traits actually make some people actually prone or vulnerable to being manipulated. And it's not that it's a weakness, but it's basically food, like in the jungle when you are a rabbit and there's a wolf. So it's not that you're cursed to be a rabbit, but that's how things are, right? So yeah, so I think some of them have been said by, I think it was Rachel who talked about people with self-esteem, and I will very much agree. Another case is people who are highly agreeable. The reason I'm again not referring to a certain personality trait or a certain personality, because in psychology or in psychiatry, personalities are not rigid, let's say standard, like clothing, like they are set in stone. People can actually adjust. I think it would be wise to refer to them as personality traits because they are like patterns. Yeah. So the second one is highly agreeable people. Why they are vulnerable or why they are prone? Because some manipulators usually rely on discomfort. So if you happen to be hating to say no, so they will keep to push you until you will just give in. That's one. And then the second one, I will say we have the empathetic people, of those who are compassionate. Again, it's not really a personality, but it's a trait. Yeah. So these are people who feel other people's pain deeply and they want to help fix others. Yeah. So when a manipulator plays the victim, it becomes a hook. So if you are empathetic, you actually take it as your bait. So you might end up prioritizing someone's feelings over your own boundaries. The third one, I'd say people who are in high need of approval. Again, what makes them vulnerable? It's because their self-worth. You see, if you put your self-worth and it depends on other people liking you, so it puts you at a very dangerous place because a manipulator can actually control you by giving or withholding your approval. So you are just making yourself fair game. And then another trait I will think of is, people who are naive or people who just overly trust others. Yeah. So they assume everyone has good intentions. So they don't even expect some sort of deception. So they don't see the manipulation coming their way. And when they do, it's usually too late when they are very much entangled. Then I will say we have people who are trauma bonded or those who are driven by attachment. Yeah. So when they're driven by attachment, it can be any form of attachment, whether it's anxious attachment, whether it's fear of abandonment. You see, so these are people why it really makes them vulnerable. It's because they may tolerate unhealthy behavior just to avoid losing the relationship, and this works for a manipulator. And then lastly, I will talk about people who are highly contentious or responsible people. As weird as it sounds, it actually makes them fair game. To me, I think personality use guilt. They like to guilt trip people. So if anyone has happened to guilt trip you and you're this responsible person, you will feel like it's your fault. So you feel like you have a strong duty or obligation to save everyone. And
Hello? Hello? You've gone mute, like we can't hear you. Are you still there? Hello? Oh, looks like we lost Dr. Lucevalelli. Oh no. Oh no, I hope they didn't get to him. He probably knows who they are anyway. Uh, Dorcas.
Yes, Luchaveleli, kindly confirm to us when you get back. Not like you will hear this, but I hope you are safe. I hope you are safe, my skeptic brother. Now, before I respond to this question you asked last on personality types that are likely to be manipulated, let me respond to something that Morioki said. He might be saying it in jest, but I don't want it to slide because it's an indication of an error in critical thinking or application of logic. Morioki was saying that, but pardon if my voice sounds hoarse. Yesterday I did a lot of screaming. Anyway, I did a lot of screaming. Some of you might be thinking BDSM, no? I went to a club. I was not a victim of a sadist. Anyway, yeah, Moroki was saying that because the music industry or the music profession tends to attract narcissists, then this is proof that music is bad. I think, Morioki, you need to learn how to separate two concepts. There's music and then there's the music industry. There are people who create music, but they are not part of the, let me call it, celebrity music industrial complex. So they are not they're not extremely popular to a point where they can become controlling and manipulative of the masses. Most people, actually, if you look at the artists that exist out there in the world, you might find that I'm just throwing a random percentage, but you might find something like 80% of them, or even 90%, are not extremely popular. They're not celebrities. So that means all these traits we're talking about of narcissism might not apply to them. That's one. They're not the majority. Popular, extremely successful musicians are not the majority. Most musicians are just struggling to get by. The other thing is you also need to separate the industry from the music itself. You can be an independent artist. You can be an independent artist and you don't need to to engage in those negative behaviors that you have a problem with or that we all have a problem with. So instead of throwing away the baby with the bathwater, because we need music. In fact, that's where maybe we disagree with you because you'll say, no, music is not necessary. It is necessary. It is necessary for humanity. Music is
1 minute.
Okay, music suits, music does all these great things, it unites people. So I think we can keep music, but then we need to dismantle the celebrity music industrial complex. Since I'm out of time, let me just mention one type of personality that is vulnerable to manipulation, and that is the codependent personality, or those people who have a matter complex. They want to engage in excessive caretaking. They look at somebody who is struggling, they have this difficulty, this mental health problem, or this financial challenges, etc., and they want to take them up. Such people are really vulnerable to manipulation. Let me leave it there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for those points, everyone. I think they were all very sophisticated. For me, my point was very simple, or rather, my answer. I was just going to say those with high empathy, those with a strong desire to please others, or those with low self-esteem, and also desperate people. You know, I'd especially issue a warning to some of these women out there. There's this idea that floats around that when it comes to marriage, women want to marry a man who makes 3 times their income if they're working, right? So if a man is making 3 times your income, that puts you in a very negative position in terms of leverage because it creates a very unequal power dynamic. Now, hopefully, if that happens, you marry a good man and he doesn't take advantage of it. But there are plenty of husbands out there who might not be good. They may not be the majority, but they exist, and they definitely take advantage of people out there. And it goes both ways. I mean, there's still also men who marry rich women and they get taken advantage of, right? I think a more common scenario that I can think of is in the Western world, there are a lot of immigrants, some of whom are men, and they marry women for citizenship. And sometimes it's even a business where the woman says, you just give me $50,000, we get married, and then we get a divorce like 1 or 2 years or 6 months later. But they get really abused during that period, like really, really abused. So, yeah, I would say try and avoid those unequal power dynamics as much as possible, which I think Rachel already highlighted. And yeah, even sometimes like men who marry beautiful women, but then the women manipulate them because the men have low self-esteem. They believe that they can't get another beautiful woman like that. So they think they're unwilling to lose that person. They also get manipulated. Desperation to look cool or gain status, right? All of these things. In fact, we'll talk about that last one in the final question, which is we're now going to the second last question. So this question is, how can we stop ourselves from being manipulated? So Dorcas, earlier you had wanted to mention all of the manipulation tactics that are used. So now you can mention them here and you can tell us how we can counter them, and we can hear what everyone else has to say. I think Dorcas, you're on mute.
Okay. Yeah, I was rotating my phone and then it takes a while. It has a lag. I am really due for an update. Now, what are some manipulative tactics that people use out there? And so, as I mentioned them, I will talk about how we can insulate ourselves from them. Or let me actually just state them wholesale, then talk about how to protect ourselves if time allows. One of them is the use of fear or guilt. I think human beings have evolved to react really strongly to fear, even more than rewards. Because if you don't respond promptly to the fear impulse, you might die. Back in the caveman days, it could be a wild animal. So if you're not afraid of the animal, you would die. So they use fear a lot, and often they create that fear. It is artificial, it isn't real, but they make it seem as though it's a matter of life and death. So that's a tactic they like to use. He had mentioned gaslighting, where somebody makes you deny your reality. I sent him a message. Let's say it's a love interest or a crush I have. I've sent him a message, and we had agreed that we were going to have a phone call at night. He didn't read my message. He left it on read, and then I mean he left a great tick. He left great ticks on it, and then when it's time for the phone call, he doesn't pick up. Then the next time, when he eventually gets in the mood of calling you or texting you, he'll just text you and pretend that that little fiasco didn't happen. You're like, ah, yeah, what happened? We're supposed to have a phone call at this time. He tells you, which phone call? Where? Hakuna, no such thing. You know, they make you deny reality. Gaslighting is a very common manipulative tactic by these people. Love bombing. I think Chilwave mentioned this earlier, where somebody overwhelms you with attention and affection. And then after they have hooked you, they withdraw it. That's why we need to be skeptical of that in romantic relationships. But it can also be done in friendships, by the way. Information distortion, that is very common. I remember listening yesterday or the day before to a government official on one of our local channels, and he was using statistics in order to lie lie to Kenyans that the government has done so much for content creators. They're earning millions. Yet those very content creators, this day more FB, I think Rachel knows these people. Rachel, we did an influencer game on Saturday, and she knows some of these famous content creators. So there's a girl called, there's a lady called Facebook who was, who is calling me again? I hope you can still hear me as I talk. Can you?
We can also hear the vibration.
Okay, let me decline. Yeah, so there's a demo face of FB who the government spokesperson, no, he's not a spokesperson per se, but he's in the Department of Communication, etc. He claimed that she earns 35 million.
1 minute.
All right. She earns 35 million when that is not the case. So they use information distortion as a tactic. So since I have 1 minute, let me just see how we can respond to it. Let me just give one approach, and it's in response to that last one that I said, information distortion. So how we can guard against it is by informing ourselves, by checking sources, especially from these politicians who are very likely to use manipulative tactics. They are likely to create an enemy where none exists, or they are likely to inflate their accomplishments. So you need to check your sources and confirm that what they're saying is true. If we have time, I'll talk about others. But yeah, let me stop there.
Yes, thank you, Dorcas. If we do have time, we can continue with your thoughts. I did want to add one thing, that I do agree with what you said, that humans are more motivated by fear than by gain, because there's a principle where someone says, if someone tells you to come for an event and they'll give you $50, you might decline. But if someone tells you to come for an event, otherwise you have to pay them $50 for not showing up, I think more people will be motivated to come when the stakes are them paying, even though in both cases it's $50. That was a psychological study that they did. So yeah, Dr. Ari, it's you.
Yeah, I hope this time I don't get disconnected. I think it was the power. We are having a power surge or something. So I'll try to be fast to make sure I don't get captured again in that surge. Okay, so I think Dorcas has outlined some of the patterns or the tactics some manipulators use, and yes, gaslighting is one of them. If I can add, to protect yourselves from such, it's very important to recognize these patterns. So apart from gaslighting, we have guilt tripping. So it usually comes in the form of, after all I've done, how can you do this? And so on and so forth. So if you recognize such a line or such patterns, not just once, the good thing about manipulation is that it's not creative, it's actually repetitive. And if you're keen, you will notice the repeating patterns, and that's a red flag. So apart from guilt tripping, it can come in many forms. Another tactic they use is love bombing. If you are in a relationship, they actually love bomb you at once and then they withdraw. You know, this intense affection and then coldness follows. Like, it's actually a pattern. So if you are the one who is prone to, attachment issues, you're actually victim to this. And another thing is the urgency pressure. Like, they usually give you ultimatums dependent on time or the urgency. Like, they tell you decide now or lose it. So they convince you that you don't have any time, you don't have any time to waste for you to make a decision, which most of the time they end up winning because of the urgency. They try to paint it for you. And then another tactic is they love to play victim. Like, they shift responsibility to you, not to them. So if you recognize this pattern, not just once, all of us can actually use this trait, but if you're noticing a pattern, you're most likely dealing with a manipulative person with you. Yeah. So the second thing now, I think it's to insert the time. If for example they are pressuring you, you just tell them, I'll think about it, or let me get back to you. It's like you've actually neutralized their some of their tactics, so it puts you at a better place to dodge the bullet if they are those urgent kind of manipulators. Another thing is you have to separate your feelings from the facts. Like, manipulators love to mix the two. Like, so you should ask yourself what exactly was said or done, or what evidence support it, or what I'm feeling, is it verifiable? Like, if they're the kind that they love to play the emotions, you can actually you can actually have a better you can actually put yourself at a better position to make a decision without being manipulated. Again, another thing is to you should just set simple boundaries. You don't negotiate your boundaries after setting them. Like, if you're an agreeable person, or if you don't have enough self-esteem, you can just start by saying, like, telling yourself a no is a no. Just practicing saying that. And if someone is pressuring you, just say you're not comfortable with that. So your own needs can actually putting your own needs first, in as much as they might gaslight you and tell you that you're selfish, you're not considering them, because that's exactly what they will do. You should learn to stand your ground in whatever response you give. And then you should also be comfortable with being disliked. While it's not really a good thing, because as someone said, we are social creatures, and back then, if you're disliked, it would mean that you will be actually left out of the large group, and being left out will mean a death sentence. But right now, we are in close knitted things, and manipulators actually still rely on this primitive card of that you must have a sense of belonging, and some even use that to threaten you with the same. But if you think right, and then you get comfortable with sometimes being disliked, it will actually be some sort of defense, so that you won't get
1
prone
minute.
to be manipulated. And then and then lastly, you should also use some external perspective. Like, you should run the situation with someone neutral, someone you trust. Though, as I earlier said, being overly trustful can actually make you a victim. So you have that one person who maybe for some good reason they won't manipulate you. So always get an external perspective, and that's all I can say about it. Yeah, thanks.
All right. Thank you very much. So I just had my own answer here. First, in terms of the tactics that they use lying slash distortion, misrepresenting facts or omitting crucial information. And then one important one, which I think happens in Kenya a lot, is minimization, trivializing the behavior or the victim's feeling. For example, saying it's not a big deal, like, why are you getting stressed? why you kasirikaing, why you, yeah, why you causing, like they belittle your feelings. They make you feel as if you shouldn't be upset or that you're foolish for being upset, which is a subset of gaslighting. Then denial, refusing to accept responsibility for their actions. They can blame other people, blame circumstances, blame situations. Playing the victim and turning the tables around on you, right? So you confront someone about something and they say that it's actually your fault for making them do it or something like that. Then there's rationalization of offering seemingly logical excuses for their aggressive actions. So if someone could be physically abusive to you, I think, in a lot of African parenting situations or even in certain classrooms, that can still be an issue. And then they use a rational justification, being like, oh, it's just tough love, or, oh, I was in a bad mood, or something like that. Then diversion or evasion, staying conversations away from their behavior. Another one I've noticed is being vague. Like they can be very vague when you ask them questions. Like there's something which they do, which is like information gathering. Like they'll ask a lot of questions about you, and then they'll give you vague answers about themselves. And then they'll use that to mold their personality into someone that you would like, but it's a mask, it's not their genuine personality. That way they can manipulate a lot of people at once. So I think those are the techniques that they use. And how can we defend against it? I think one, we can judge by behavior rather than intent, because they can easily confuse us with words, right? Let's say someone promises not to do it again or not to repeat behavior. The key is to ask yourself, how are they behaving instead of what are they saying? Because it's very easy to fake words, but not easy to fake behavior. The second thing is to disengage if possible. So if you're in an abusive relationship or friendship, try to leave it. If you're in a toxic work environment, try to leave it. I guess the only difficult one is trying to escape the country. But yeah, um, essentially realize that even if you are aware of manipulation tactics, that doesn't make them less effective. They can still be used on you. So don't think that just because you figured out that someone's a manipulator means you can outsmart them. Because these people, they start from a young age. They've been manipulating people since age 12 or younger, and now they're in their 20s and they have years of experience, like decades of experience, and you're trying to out manipulate them. It doesn't work. Like there's just one person who personally, like I know and some people know, he would just gaslight people in any philosophical debate and just refuse to admit that he was wrong, and he would deliberately gaslight and rage bait you, but you just had to realize that you shouldn't take the bait. Like, you'll never get the manipulator to see reason. You need to realize they're not noble people. Their goal is strictly to manipulate and abuse you, and they won't change. And don't even bother trying to understand why someone can be so twisted. So, the book recommendation I would make is called In Sheep's Clothing: Understanding and Dealing with Manipulative People by George K. Simon. Again, that's In Sheep's Clothing: Understanding and Dealing with Manipulative People by George K. Simon. And another book is called The Confidence Game by Maria Konnikova. So that book is specifically on con men, like how we get conned. And she kind of echoes what Daktari was saying, which is anyone can be conned. So she has that premise as well, that no one is too smart or too stupid to be conned. So finally, the last question I'd want to go to is, are there any examples of mass manipulation, especially beyond religion? And we talk about religion a lot, but I thought for this time we could try to think of examples outside the box. Just quickly to give my answer, I think conspiracy theories are mass manipulation, like anti-vaccines or reducing the population, that the global elite want to reduce the population. I think such conspiracies, they try to manipulate majority or masses of people and control their thinking. And even some levels of marketing and branding take advantage and manipulate us. Like, for example, some people would argue that Rolex is manipulative because at the end of the day, a Timex watch, which costs $100, actually tells time better than a Rolex watch, which costs like $10,000 because a quartz crystal is more efficient than a mechanical watch. So are they just manipulating us into buying a false sense of status? I also think that capitalism is manipulative, and I think something I came across was called system justification theory, which is where rather than believe a system is unfair, which would cause psychological harm to someone, they instead decide to justify the system that they're in. So you've heard of people say, oh, it's my time to eat. So people believe, instead of believing corruption is wrong, it's unfair, we need to change it, they're like, no, corruption is fine. And yeah, even me, when I get there, I will eat. So that's a system of mass manipulation because a lot of people believe that. Even with bullying in schools, like some people believe because I was bullied, now it's my turn to bully people. So yeah, with the remaining time, if anyone has any thoughts on mass manipulation, let them go ahead. Morioki, you raised your hand first.
Yeah, I think like for women can attest to this. These skin lighteners, hair types, makeup. I think when they put these women on in pictures, their skin was dark before, and it's light. The hair was like this, like that. So women are also tricked into buying products because of what they see in TV or pictures. Thanks.
Yes, Dorcas.
Okay. I agree with you that the marketing industry or the advertising industry is rife with mass manipulation. Only 10 watches, limited edition watches left. Buy now or miss them. 500 people have tried this product and they testify to its goodness. Yet you might find that it actually does nothing, that it's that person's genes that are responsible. It isn't really the product. So even influencers, the process of social proof, there is an element of manipulation, especially if the product or the service being sold does not deliver on its promise. I think the junk food or obesity industry complex is a very good example of manipulation. They use sensory tactics like and emotions to make you gravitate towards these unhealthy products, and they use those colors. They use a lot of psychological manipulation. They use colors. They give gifts to children, etc. And this makes us hooked. By extension, now that we're talking about addiction, social media, it really is a manipulative industry. They use influencers, the algorithm. When notifications pop, you have 50 new likes in your recent upload, that increases the chances that you go back there. There's the infinite scrolling. You can actually spend 16 hours a day on your phone scrolling on a certain social media app because there's no provision for you to stop. Then the algorithm prioritizing shocking content or content that is rage baity or that is overly sexual, even when that is unnecessary or unrelated, that tends to cause addiction and it manipulates you into staying there, staying hooked. Gambling, I think that is also there. Of course, politicians, oh my. Politicians are masters. The political sphere is rife with manipulation. They use an us versus them approach in Kenya, tribalism. We recently had this EPRA oil scandal, and one of the directors, who happens to be Kalenjin, got his clansmen or his tribesmen and women to stage demonstrations that their person was being accused. Yet when he was stealing the money, he was keeping it to himself. He was not sharing it with his tribesmen and women. So they use politicians like to deflect, they like to lie, they like to use emotion, not logic. They create fear. Look at what Donald Trump did. He said, if you don't choose me, the transgenders will take over. The transgenders and the gays will take over this country. So they use fear a lot because they know how human beings are sensitive to that. And then even eliminating any opposing group or any conflicting identity. They want their political party or their political ideology to be the main one driving their country, especially if they are president. So I think the political
1
sphere
minute.
is responsible. I was actually done. I just wanted to ask, yes, you're saying we talk about religion a lot. Please, I'm requesting, let's still mention how religion manipulates people because we are skeptics, we are atheists. That we can't run away from this identity. I would still like to hear from people how religion manipulates individuals. If because we started at 10 past the hour, so we still have like 15 minutes left to the end.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I think with what Dorcas has said, it's true. And I think one thing I might also add is I think even things like pornography can be mass manipulation because of the false expectations that it gives people about sex, how long sex will last, how skilled people are in bed, how people's bodies look, like expecting men with 10-inch penises and women with, like double G cup breasts and, having threesomes. And that also tapers into like social media influencers. An interesting statistic I learned is that in America, you're actually more likely to be a millionaire than you are to have a six pack. Yet you see all these six packs on Instagram and you think, I'm so out of shape. But yeah, there are more millionaires in America than there are people with six packs. So that I would say is also mass manipulation. Uh, what happened to Daktari? Did he vanish? Oh no, he vanished again. I don't know if anyone has anything else to add. Uh, if they don't, then I can just repeat the questions in case anyone has any closing remarks. And for those of you who are joining us, so the first question was the definition of manipulation. The second one was the difference between manipulation and influence. The third was, are there personalities that are likely to manipulate? And uh, the fourth one was, are there personalities that are likely to be manipulated? The fifth was how can we stop ourselves from being manipulated? And the final one was examples of mass manipulation. So, Morioki, you had raised your hand first.
Yeah, thanks. Doc has mentioned religion. Yeah, like for me, as a skeptic, I mentioned in the group, dealing with death is difficult for me. So when I'm grieving and somebody comes and talks about God, Jesus to me, I don't argue normally because I'm grieving. So that moment when I'm in grief, I'm at the mercy of religion because I'm in pain inside. So now this most people are in religion because of dealing with such things like emotional pain, grief, such things. So yeah, so now I think religion offers that comfort human beings need. So their religion will always win. It will manipulate you because of the pain you're feeling inside. Thanks.
All right, Dorcas.
Okay, I wanted to add one more industry and also talk about religion a bit. Gambling. How do they use manipulative tactics? First, you need to realize that the house always wins with gambling. You can never outsmart the house. And here it is metaphorically speaking. It doesn't have to be that you're going to a casino. You can just be on Betika or any other sports app that is on your phone. Or you might even be doing it amongst your friends. You might be betting on Manchester United or Chelsea, and that becomes regular. You're putting some money on it. The house always wins. But some of the manipulative tactics that they employ include the illusion of skill and control. They actually sell you the hope of winning. And sometimes they give you small wins. You know, somebody starts gambling kidogo kidogo and then they get a small win. And then now they tell you invest more so that you can win big. And then now when you do, you lose more. After you lose more, you start chasing losses to recover what you lost. And the cycle continues. You find yourself selling your assets. Some people have even gone homeless because of that manipulative tactic manipulative tactic. There's the issue of unpredictable rewards. You know, they play with your dopamine receptors. All these industries, akina social media, junk food, or even pornography, they play with unpredictable rewards. So you don't know. You don't know whether you'll get it or you won't. So you keep playing. You keep playing, hoping to win. And then even the fact that there are no time cues and them employing seamless payment methods make the process as frictionless as possible. That increases the chances that you'll spend more time there. So yeah, I wanted to highlight that. Now on religion, this one, it is so ingrained in the water that many people are not even aware of it. We have the issue of guilt tripping you through the concept of sin. It tells you that you are broken as a human being, and then so it creates a problem and then gives the antidote, which is redemption in Christianity through believing in Jesus Christ. So they remind you of your sin, and you're never really truly free because there's always the possibility of you committing some sins, especially thought crimes in Christianity. So they always make themselves relevant in that respect. They use fear, the fear of eternal punishment, that is hell. So they lock you in. Many people realize that. They also employ social isolation because they know information is not information, but a community is essential. So they punish you by ostracizing you if you are too inquisitive. If you're asking too many questions, you're challenging the leadership in church or in the mosque etc., then you might be ostracized. And many people need that community. I think also the issue of controlling of rewards. They also use that as a manipulative tactic. They reward his blessings. That if you are a faithful Christian, if you pray, you're going to get blessings. You're going to get divine favor, and that keeps you on lock. Even the way church services are held, you find that they use a lot of emotional manipulation. They play that worship music that gives you that sense of community and vulnerability. And then now the preacher comes in with a sermon. They are charismatic and they're so powerful, but in it, they are making you realize how useless you are, how broken you are. And then now they give the solution of salvation. And then finally is the issue of requiring you to keep coming back. They tell you it's the fellowship of believers. There's a verse that talks about you needing to come together as brethren, but it is actually a way to always reinforce those emotional manipulative tactics or cues, because they wear off once you leave church. But if you keep going back there, they keep repeating those messages, and that's how the church or religion keeps you hooked. Yeah, that's what I had to say. I don't know whether Chilwave, you had something final.
Yes. So I know we haven't really talked about sociopaths, but in case anyone wanted any further readings, there was a book called, let's see, I have it right here. Just one moment. There's one called The Sociopath Next Door. And there's another follow-up book by the same author called Outsmarting the Sociopath Next Door by Martha Stout. And there's a book called Machiavellianism by K. Thomas. And then there's also The Narcissist You Know by Joseph Burgo. So just in case you want to be fully prepared against all these evil, manipulative people, you can go ahead and read those books. So other than that, it was a very nice discussion, and hopefully you guys are more prepared next time you face a manipulative person.
All right. Thank you so much, Chilwave, for that highly educative and engaging session. Those questions were spot on. They really addressed the issue to its core. I love the fact that we started with definitions to just clarify definitions and differences between manipulation and other similar terms. So thank you very much for excellent moderation. I don't know, Estonia, you have come in at the very last minute or towards the end. Is there anything you'd like to say on this discussion before we call it a day? Also, ex-pastor, you have been in the meeting, but you've been very quiet. Is there anything you'd like to comment on about manipulation?
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, for me, I was just listening. Yes, I came a bit late, but I was just listening to the discussion. Yeah. I think everything has been said, so I have nothing more to add.
Oh, okay. At
Yeah.
least we need to hear you come.
Okay, I'm always when I'm logging, I'm always listening, very alert.
I see.
Yeah.
Asante, Estonia. And by the way, this gentleman has been doing great work for us on our channel. He is the one that uploads content on YouTube. So thank you so much, Estonia, for all the work that you do behind the scenes. I'm seeing ex-pastor is writing under some prison, but listen. Eh, okay. Let me not even push that further. Sawa sawa. Thank you, ex-pastor, for at least launching the meeting. Um, every participant, including Monk, who was logged out, Lucheveleli, he came in, he was in and out. Thank you for all those lovely contributions that you made despite the network difficulties that you were facing. And thank you, Rachel. Hey, today Rachel was active. Today Rachel did not fall asleep at some point. So good job. Keep doing whatever you're doing that kept you awake in this meeting. Do that continually. Thank you, Morioki, for your contribution and all the other silent watchers that participated in the meeting. I wish you all a lovely night. Please remember to check out our YouTube channel. We have uploaded all the videos that we did during the video shoot. The most recent one was this week. It is Atheism Plus, when atheists take on additional causes or ideologies. Please check it out. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. I wish you guys a lovely night, afternoon, or morning, depending on where you are watching us from. I see we have some book recommendations given to us by the host, including The Sociopath Next Door by Martha Stout, The Narcissist You Know by Joseph Bargo, and Machiavellianism, first edition by Thomas Berekzekej, or something like that. Sorry for mispronouncing. Yeah, so guys, good night. Take care. And don't do anything I would not enjoy.